Hello, viewers and listeners to the Mind, Body, Spirit Network's weekly High Vibe Tribe expert interview. My name is Liz Garcia. I'm founder of the Mind, Body, Spirit Network and host of our High Vibe Tribe Radio.com, which is our podcast, and High Vibe Tribe TV.com, which is our YouTube channel. And I am here because I love to bring visionary thought leaders, luminary healers, transformational agents of change into your life and into your awareness, so that if you need to shift or have a different thought about a thing in regards to mind, body, spirit, health, anything in that realm, we're here to introduce you to the experts from around the world that are really tuned in to what they're doing and have great success. And today is no exception. And before I introduce our guest, I'm going to ask a few questions of you. How would you like the idea of opening to all of your intuitive gifts, being clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience, claircognizance, and understanding what the heck they are, for that matter, and fully empower yourself as a sensitive or an empath? And today we're speaking with Wendy DeRosa, who is gifted in all of this type of thing and a trainer and teacher. And she does focus on sensitives and empaths, which we'll get through to in a minute. But the reason I'm bringing, excuse me, Wendy on today is because we are affiliate partners with the Shift Network. And Wendy has really taken off in all kinds of courses that she teaches throughout the year on different topics, all kind of related. Wendy, it's all related to intuition pretty much. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. Cool. But she has an upcoming event right now for the Shift Network. And if you're listening to this, it's June of 2019, June 25th. But it's likely something like this will come around later in the year as well. Wendy, are you doing like 3 or 4 classes a year now with them, or?
Yeah, it's about three to four a year, and they do turn most of their courses evergreen. So usually if it's not live, you can catch it.
Okay, cool. All right.
On their website.
Cool. So this upcoming one is called Strengthening Your Intuitive Gifts Through Your Chakras. Discover Deep Healing and Empowerment for Sensitives and Empaths. And it's interesting that you're focusing on the chakras in this one, Wendy, because I didn't know they were necessarily portals to intuitive wisdom, healing, and guidance. So that's new to me. But before we start asking Wendy questions, let me just give you a little background on Wendy. And she lives in Boulder, and that's where I met her originally. So we just happened to cross paths again in the Shift Network, which I'm very happy that we are. So Wendy DeRosa is an internationally respected intuitive energy healer, speaker, teacher, and author. And for the past 2 decades, she's offered private sessions, education, and training programs for spiritual and personal growth for those wanting to develop their intuition, clear their blocks, and experience personal transformation. She's the founder of the School of Intuitive Studies and the Intuitive Healer Training Program. And Wendy has filmed 2 programs for Mind Valley's spiritual growth channel, Solvana. She's a mindvalley.com author whose book, Energy Healing Through the Chakras, A Guide to Self-Healing, is an Amazon bestseller. Now, this is news to me, Wendy. Congratulations. That's awesome. I knew you had 1 program for the Mind Valley. So what are the 2 programs that you've done so far?
With Mind Valley or the Solvana? There was I think there was a how to stop taking on the energy of others and a chakra program.
Oh, nice. And and your most recent book is Expanding Your Heart, Awakening Through 4 Stages of a Spiritual Opening. Well, I do recall you writing this, and I remember you speaking about the significance of the heart energy. I don't know where I saw this. It must have been a Shift Network webinar where you talk about the energy of the heart that comes not only from the front, but from the back. That's one thing I remember, and the significance of that. So, Wendy, how long have you been doing this? How long have you been an intuitive and a healer?
Yeah, so it's been 24 years now.
Oh,
So I've
okay.
been working, for about 24 years, and then that's when I started the learning about the work and started practicing a few years into that, and then I've had a full-time practice for 15 years.
Actually working one-on-one with people.
Working one-on-one, yep. And then about 8 or 9 years ago, I get a lot of interest in learning. Like, people wanted to learn how to develop their intuition or wanted me to teach them what I knew. And so that's when I started courses and training and my now intuitive healer training program.
Right. So not only are you helping individuals, which is, I have to say, I was interviewing Sonia Choquette. Do you know of Sonia Choquette? Not too long ago. And she told her story about growing up where learning to trust and develop your intuition was like a must do. Like, her mother insisted on it. And she didn't understand, because she was so young, how you could not have that. And I'm like, well, a lot of people don't. So it's really coming to the forefront. I'm seeing, like, through the Shift Network and others, how much interest there is in people wanting to develop their own intuition and, more importantly, trust it. Right. So what if, like, so you have a whole school on intuitive studies now. What's that all about? And importantly, I do want to point out, because we have a lot of healers in the Mind Body Spirit Network, that you're helping healers, you're training them to use their own intuition as well. So there's 2 questions for you right there. Let's deal with the individual side and how that's.
Well, mostly with the school, we work with anybody, people who are looking to develop their intuition, but also looking for deep energy healing, because the 2 coincide. And it's interesting, just because there's a lot of people who actually grow up with the opposite experience, which is an invalidation of what's going on inside them. And then as a result of people not, when we're raised in an environment where we're not given the teachings to know it's okay for you to be you, and I'm validating your emotions, and this is how you're sensitive, and here's how you work with it. The majority of people did not get that. And so what happens is, when that ends up happening, that there's a suppression of self that happens in the energy body, primarily in the lower chakras, and we become very programmed. And we become, especially in the first 3 chakras, we become suppressed, and we're operating on conditioning. And that dichotomy of my soul is contracted or my self is contracted and I'm operating on conditioning ends up creating an immense amount of oversensitivity in the system, in the body. We become more susceptible because there isn't enough room for self in the body. Radiating presence and self. Instead, we become absorbent because there's a part of us that's contracted, almost like a vacuum gets created. And so a lot of the work in what I offer, I speak to empaths, but empaths is just one form of intuition. There's 3 other aspects of intuition, but for people who feel they're oversensitive, they're feeling their intuition getting stronger, they are trusting a deeper calling that they need more, or they want to go deeper into their experience. That's where my work comes in. I work at a very deep level with clients and students and training people how to develop their intuition, but from a very embodied and grounded perspective.
So you mentioned, so I know you deal a lot with empaths, also known as highly sensitive persons. How did you get involved with that particular group?
Well, so highly sensitive, they're actually different, highly sensitive persons and people and empaths. So empaths is just, it's a word that people are identifying with these days. And the confusion about being an empath is that empaths sometimes feel that I'm an empath, therefore I take on the energy of others. But that's not the true state. That's not the true state of the empath. An empath has the ability to feel energy that's going on around them in their environment. The taking on, and this is where highly sensitive people come in too, is that highly sensitive people can take on energy anywhere in their body. Empaths specifically absorb energy into the lower 3 chakras of their body. So they are specifically, because the first 3 chakras of the body are the empathic power centers.
Oh.
Through the second and third chakras, we feel what's going on beneath the table. In the upper chakras, we have our clairaudience, our clairvoyance, and we also have our claircognizance, which is sort of in between lower and upper body. But the empath is specifically feeling and absorbing what's going on subcurrent, beneath the surface. So they're picking up emotional energy, they're picking up collective consciousness, they're picking up the vibe of what's going on in the space around them. But that's what the second chakra does. That's the nature of the second chakra. It feels intuitively the subcurrents. And when we don't occupy that power center, or in the third is related to that as well, if we don't occupy our lower chakras and we're not conscious of that, our spirit sits high up above them or moves out of the way. We're not embodied in those areas of the body, so we're not able to hold a boundary. And that's holding that boundary and dropping into grounding is where that not absorbing, stop absorbing the energy. We can be dropped in, embodied, and empathic. We don't have to be overly empathic.
Okay. So what you were talking about from the beginning, as kids, we block off all of those lower ones and then it becomes problematic.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly for survival. You know, in the root chakra area of the body, that's where we form our belief systems, our tribal marinade. That's how we form our structure and how the rest of our tree is going to operate in the world. But what happens is when we're told who we are is not okay, or it's not okay for you to be who you are or have the feelings you have, we go into a contraction at the root chakra. We close down in that area of the body. We stop flow. And then at that point, the other chakras compensate.
Right.
They either, you know, and they'll blow open and be hyper vigilant and pay attention to what's going on around us, or they'll shut down and be emotionally suppressed. So it's, you know, part of the work for empaths and sensitive beings is that we really learn how to ground ourselves into the power of our root chakra and let that power center unfurl so that the spirit can drop in and live in the lower body and hold boundaries appropriately.
Yeah. So you must have learned, like, came to all of this understanding while working one-on-one with people. Like, was that a point where you're like, you're like intuitive, or you can see things like clairvoyance, or working with someone, what did you start to see that became a pattern?
I think it was a combination of actually how I came to know this. As part of it was my own experience growing up in a very large family of 8 kids and a big Italian loud Catholic family, and you know, and being in a boundaryless environment when it came to so much yelling and screaming and emotional projection and, you know, all those things. People, you know, no one knew how to parent sensitive beings, and everybody was in their own orbit of struggle, and so we're all like sinking and swimming in a big family.
It's kind of funny in hindsight, isn't it?
Yeah, now I can laugh about
I know.
Oh my God.
It was 5 kids in our family, and you know.
Yeah, feast or famine.
Too, it's like a lot of kids.
Yeah, yeah. So but I grew up, you know, I didn't know. So I had at the time, and I didn't know this till I was an adult. Well, I didn't know this till probably 15 years ago, but I was sensitive in terms of having all 4 aspects of intuition. This is where that highly sensitive person piece comes in, which is that I was empathic, which is clairsentient. I was claircognizant, which was that deep sense of knowing, and heart callings. And the heart callings, which eventually turned into anxiety. I was clairaudient, so I was hearing a lot of information coming through in music and song and downloads, and I was clairvoyant and I was seeing everything. Well, a kid who doesn't know that turned into anxiety, panic attacks, overwhelm, nervous breakdown by the time I was 19 years old.
Oops.
Put on medication.
Oh my God.
You know, because that means my system was shot, because no one's saying, oh, this is how your intuition works, Wendy. You know,
right.
What's happening. So partly it was coming through that experience and realizing, oh, wait a second, I actually do have all 4 of these very activated in my system, and that I can learn how to work with the lower chakras around my empathic nature. I can lean back and start to receive my downloads when I want to come into higher guidance about that. I can close my eyes and visualize where I might need healing for myself and my body. And I can, and when I get pictures and images and things that are coming through me and I don't know what they mean, I can check in to my claircognizance sense, that sense of knowing. That helps us helps us translate what our experience is. So once I started to understand this was all at work in my body, and I could see, I mean, yes, to your point with clients, I mean, there's thousands and thousands of people I've looked at energetically on that, energetic anatomy level to see what's going on. But people weren't coming to me for intuition. They were coming to clear blocks in their system. But what we find is when we start to clear our blocks, we become more intuitive.
Yes.
Because we're unblocking our natural power centers. And these are the power centers where intuition operates from.
Well, you've answered a lot of questions for me personally. Thank you.
Good.
I study consciousness with Dr. David Hawkins. I don't know if you're familiar with Power versus Force and his work, but he's kind of mapped out consciousness and where true power and stuff is. And he was a psychiatrist, an esteemed psychiatrist for a long time in Manhattan. But his realization as well is that as you remove the blocks to the inner worlds, you become more intuitive. As you go into higher levels of consciousness, your intuition and those 4 intuitive gifts you just spoke about become stronger. Mm-hmm. So I had an experience one day where I had a quantum spiritual awakening into all of those at a very powerful level, holy, whoa, everything opened up, which didn't really end well, but it did. It did eventually. So
you look great.
Yeah, I'm good. But I have to say that Claircognizance, I opened up to all of them: Clairsentience, Cognizance, Clairvoyance, Clairaudience. Mm-hmm. I still have Clairvoyance, and what you answered for me now is I get a lot of visuals, but I don't quite know how to translate them. But you just said you use Claircognizance to get more information, right?
Claircognizance is an interesting one because Claircognizance is an activation of the spirit in the body. Most of the time we feel Claircognizance through the back body, the gut, and the heart. So basically it's the sense of knowing.
Right.
People who are claircognizant or have that as a sense that's strong will say, I don't know why I know or how I know, I just know. I just have a knowing. Oh. I don't know if I see it. I don't know if I feel it. I just know. And that knowing sense, what happens is grace starts to flow instantly through grace is always flowing, right. But it activates the back channel of the body. And in that experience, the light starts to enter into the back of the heart and the back of the solar plexus. And people might not feel it in the back. They'll just feel it right in the center of their gut, or they'll get a deep, a profound calling. Sometimes it comes through as calling. Oh. I don't know why I need to do this, but I need to go do this. That's a claircognizant sense, as well as people who feel it in the gut area. And sometimes claircognizant people will get chills. They'll need to somatically release, they will actually need to get up and move their body. Sometimes they're the walking meditators.
Yeah.
To walk and get their downloads and move their body to get their intuition. They might be more kinesthetic in the world. So that's that claircognizant sense. But what happens is when we get up here, we can get downloads that come in on that clairvoyant, clairaudience. This is upper body intuition. And what we need to do is connect to lower body intuition and say, okay, I'm getting this information. I'm going to ground myself now into my body. I mean, we should ground anyway, but I'm going to drop in lower into my body and just get a sense of how would I, what does this mean? Is there a meaning? Is there something I need to know about this? How would I translate this? Sometimes the information doesn't come right away. Sometimes it comes 2 or 3 days later, or it comes in the middle of the night in someone's sleep.
Okay.
But that's part of the integration process.
Now, is Clairsentience a lower chakra?
Yeah, that's a lower chakra intuition. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I've had other healers say that they see most people have second chakra issues.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So maybe that Clairsentience is a little more challenging for most of us because we're all blocking it or something.
Well, it's interesting. We're having such a powerful awakening around the second chakra. I mean, think about it in terms of the Me Too movement.
Yeah.
A lot of trauma that was suppressed collectively in society, a lot of the masculine feminine dynamic was suppressed the feminine in such a way that, collectively women are getting more in touch with their truth.
Right.
And that truth is rising, and as out of the rise, it's painful, but it's connectable and it's healing as a result. And so this is what's happening with empaths is that the way our consciousness evolution happens in the body is inevitably, if we're not doing our inner work, the universe is going to present to us the opportunities.
Yes.
To make us do our inner work.
Yes,
or pull the rug out from under us. So, but that's what I think with empaths, we become symptomatic and shut down and tired and physically drained and exhausted from energy because we're being asked to wake up in that area of our body and see that this is a powerful place.
No kidding.
Empathic into power centers, not, wounded centers.
Yeah, thank you. So, when I had that quantum awakening, I felt like claircognizant was huge. Like that seemed like the most clear gift you can have. Seemingly, that's the way it felt to me. I'm like, how do I know that so clearly?
And it's interesting you say that because in this next course, I've never done this in a program before, but I'm spending 3 weeks just talking about claircognizance and the different aspects of claircognizance, because to me, it is one of it's one of those aspects in ourselves that if we don't have a sense of self in our grounding and anchored in, we're not going to know if we don't know ourselves.
Right.
And so that it's that power of foundation and knowing self and getting connected to self in order to have a sense of knowing. And that is foundational to the rest of the
It's huge.
aspects.
Well, that's pretty interesting, Wendy, that's come up as like when I had it, I'm like, holy crap, this is a huge gift. And you mentioned, grace is ever present, whether you're aware or not. I happen to have that awareness. Not
that's
full. I've had the full awareness of the presence, but just knowing that it's always there. I'm like, I know you're there. But so learning claircognizance and that you're focusing on that is pretty huge. And I did not know it was in the lower chakras. And I know I've had lower chakra issues big time because my predominant ones are here. No wonder.
Yeah. Well, claircognizance is also heart chakra. So it is a little, it's
kind of,
lower and upper, I guess.
All right. So this upcoming course that we're talking about dealing with the chakras, 3 of those weeks, is it like usually a 7 or 8 week course through the shift, or?
It varies. This one's 12.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's a little longer.
All right. So let's talk about, because we don't have a whole lot of time today, but let's talk about how you train healers, because we have a big healer audience out there. Tell us what that's about.
So people who, so I run an intuitive healer training program, and it's a 9-month program, and it is a very deep dive into the energetic body to help clear the blocks in the body and also increase the presence of divinity, of light and grace in the system. And ultimately it's healing the healer so that the healer can be a healer in the world, but from a very transformed perspective. And I work at a very deep level. I mean, I think anybody who's taken a class from me or, done anything that I've done has gone there. The feedback is always, wow, I've had such profound shifts. I've never worked at this deep level before. I've been working for 30 years on this stuff, and I've never had this experience. We're doing deep diving in because we can't go in through the frontal lobe of the brain. We have to go in through the deeper states of healing and transformation. I know that one of my gifts in the world is to teach people intuition on an embodied and grounded level, because our work isn't to fragment or we're not living acidic lives anymore, so to speak. We have to be out there in the world. And what happens when we start to really heal and clear the blocks is we unblock our divine nature, which means that we're embodied in our power and in our light, and that supports us in being grounded in the world with our intuition. So we go through everything from embodied energy healing to the 4 aspects of intuition to working with cords and contracts, and we work with entities, dark energy, we work with heart consciousness, spirit guides, angels. We do the whole realm of learning of tools in energy work, but it is a profoundly transformational program. And so that's what I offer trainings in supporting healers.
Now, is that anyone live? Is part of that live, or like some of it is, self-guided and then?
Yeah, there's 2 live trainings in Boulder. And then we do an online curriculum for the 9 months. I have weekly calls. There are assistants, and it's an incredibly supported reparenting system that's created for people to shift and shift their bonding to themselves and to the world around being their gifts. And they don't have to be healers is a broad term.
Okay.
Not everybody has to be a healer per se. Healer can really be, that you want your own personal healing, or some people that
okay. So we don't want to limit it to people that are in practice.
Right. Exactly.
And they'll be working with you. So, I mean, gang, listeners and viewers, I've worked with Wendy before with marketing stuff, and she's also an acquaintance through networking in Boulder, Colorado, where we originally met. She's the real deal, which I don't have to tell you, can see that energetically. She is a significant healer, and just working with someone like that, I always love to quote Einstein. Einstein says, you cannot solve a problem from the level of consciousness that created it. You need to go outside of yourself. Not, God's always like, you got it all within you as well. But there's situations where you need to seek higher guidance, someone who's of higher consciousness on the matter to help you with it. And that higher consciousness is powerful. And Wendy's got it going on within her to help you shift. So Wendy does have to go today, so we're going to have to cut this. But this interview will always be on our network, the Mind Body Spirit network.com/interview-Wendy DeRosa, and on our YouTube channel, highvibetribetv.com, and podcast, highvibetriberadio.com. And we'll always have links on our interview page to Wendy's upcoming events with the Shift Network. So you can always connect with her. We'll always be running that there, so you can find her there. And if you have questions, you can always ask below in the comments area, and I'll be sure to send a question along to Wendy, and maybe she'll have the time to respond for us. Or I have a little bit of intuition going on too, so I could probably answer for her on simple questions. Wendy, thank you for joining us today. Good luck at your next
Mm.
Shift Network event. I know that they're just knocking it out of the park, and they're happy to have you there at the Shift.
Thank you so much, Liz.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for
Bye,
listening.
everyone.